hardly anyone knew that half of all food is thrown away. Then the film Taste the Waste shook people up. Politicians were also alarmed.
Eating is probably the area where you most influence on the use of the resources.
The European Union set ambitious targets. Food waste is supposed to be cut by half. How is the EU going to do it? Lots of individual initiatives from small and large companies throughout Europe indicate how the growing mountain of waste could be reduced. But is goodwill shown on an individual basis enough?
If we continue with the business as usual, we will be throwing away something like 120 million tons, which is, to put it more in relative terms, approximately 30% of all the production of the food. It's basically ending in dustbins.
Politicians could intervene in a guiding way and create incentives. Waste collection fees, for example, that really do cover costs, or a recycling quota. But many governments refuse to intervene in events that affect the economy. They'd rather wait for voluntary actions from industrial associations.
It's absolutely necessary that we have an intentional, solid policy against food waste. Because, as I said, environmentally it's bad, economically it's bad, and first and foremost of all, it's immoral.
While the situation in many countries does not go beyond non-committal appeals, the British government already became active 5 years ago. Britain was under pressure. Refuse dumps on the island are spilling over. The EU is threatening to impose fines because food on the dumps ferments into the greenhouse gas methane.
England has a problem with waste. It has a landfill problem. Lots of food waste is still being dumped on landfills, which the European Union no longer permits. If they are unable to solve their landfill problem, the British will have to pay a large sum to Brussels. This awareness of the urgent need for action has led companies, government agencies and other organisations to realise that they will have to solve the problem jointly. In most countries in Europe, this sense of urgency doesn't exist yet.
That's why the British government started the campaign Love Food, Hate Waste as far back as 2007. A major success. So far, the UK has been the only country in Europe able to reverse the trend to more and more waste. UK consumers now throw away 13% less food.
This time last year, we did a full assessment on the amount of consumer food waste that is produced in the UK, and that had reduced from 8.3 million tonnes when we started to about 7.2 million tonnes within a period of about just over 3 years. That was a significant achievement, 1.1 million tonnes. And just to give you an idea, you may be aware of Wembley Stadium in London, but that 1.1 million tonnes would fill Wembley Stadium to the brim.
How did the government in London achieve this? What was particularly convincing was that it targeted the entire production chain. There's not just one villain. Waste is a complex interaction involving everyone, business and consumers. To reverse the trend, politicians have to take the lead. In Britain, the government didn't merely ask business to come up with its own activities. The government demanded them. This community centre in London serves as a role model. Mo trains cooks in the whole YMCA district so that they throw out as little as possible and can still prepare everything fresh.
Basically, the best soup is always the French say that the leftover vegetable. We recycle all the vegetable, the onion, the courgette, the pepper, broccoli, watercress, just all together, both fried, onion, blended, and you perfectly can see for yourself, absolutely fantastic soup. Nothing that you can see with the bin there, that is for rubbish. We don't really give the food to the bins. Food goes to the customers. Bins should be always remain empty, really. But they're aware of what you're doing, you know? The majority of the customers are aware of how we operate now. They support the idea we're cooking fresh food cut to order, basically. They're willing to wait because they're not in a hurry. If you're in a hurry, you go to McDonald's. That's why I look at it. Now, that's why McDonald's, they're wasting so much food and ingredients. It's absolutely ridiculous. The amount of you pass by the bins, you see full of stuff left outside the restaurant in the street. Encourage more rodent like foxes and slot. What? Well, you don't need that.
Ever since Mo was honoured as a waste-saving champion, his enthusiasm has spread nationwide. The food industry is offering a solution too. Its programme is called United Against Waste. This initiative puts a computer programme in restaurant chefs' hands that enables them to reduce leftover waste in larger-scale kitchens too. Chef de cuisine Ashley Maskell has been using it for 2 years now, and it's already paid off.
All I do is input their data then, so 5 kilos of spoilage, 5 kilos of prep waste, and 2 kilos of customer plate waste. On that particular day, we enter the covers. So we did 58 covers, press enter, and then it gives us the waste per kilo per cover. So on that day, we were wasting just over 200 grams per plate, which is an achievable target for us. A lot of our dishes come with a side salad, and we found that if anything was coming back off the plate, it was the side salads. And then when I started using the Unilever waste management systems, we identified that this problem, it was obviously costing me a lot of money to buy the lettuce in each day. It was then costing me staff hours to process the lettuce, wash it, sanitize it, dry it, spin it, and then get it into salad containers. And then, of course, it was taking up fridge and space in the fridge, so it was costing me electricity, and it has a knock-on effect all the way down the line. And we were going through huge amounts of salad. So the easiest solution to us was to use a curlier leaf salad, one with more bulk to it. So we were still getting the same plate size salads, but we were using far less leaves. The other stuff we do is, all of this now, broccoli stems. Again, rather than go in the bin, this will be soup now. I don't like to see things go to landfill especially, so we actually send them to a local farmer who rears pigs, and he feeds the pigs with the vegetables, and then when they go to slaughter, he'll give us half a side of pork as a thank you for giving the food. So, again, we've taken something that we were putting in the bin and turned it into something that's actually going to make us some money.
Buffets rank high on the list of waste generators. They entice guests to load too much onto their plates. The restaurants tack this onto the price, which means that customers who don't waste a thing have to pay for others' wastefulness. A Chinese restaurant in Germany opted for an unusual education measure for its customers. Anyone with leftovers on their plate pays a surcharge.
When a lot is left on the plate, people have to pay extra. Everyone understands the rule. Some say it's ridiculous. But most think it's a good idea. Better than throwing everything away.
€1 is charged for every piece of sushi left on the plate, €2 for meat or shrimps. The deterrent works. Most customers don't fill their plates so full anymore. Some even view the strict fine as an excellent idea, because they feel that the only way to regulate the battle at the buffet is via people's wallets.
It's food that is otherwise thrown away just because people think they have to load up their plates first time round, instead of waiting 5 minutes after a normal portion and seeing if they're still hungry. We've been coming here for several months now, and I've always had enough to eat, without having to worry about paying more.
People ought to take time over their food. We Europeans have forgotten that. There's a saying in Bavaria, with some people, their eyes are bigger than their belly.
When meat is thrown out, That's worst of all for the environment, and the worst for the pocket too. That's why the Weißer Bräuhaus in Munich is downsizing its usual king-size portions.
It was a surprise when half a knuckle of pork came, but on reflection it was just right. When you order a roast knuckle of pork, you expect a pizza-sized plate. But you're always much too full afterwards, so actually it's the perfect portion.
Quality rather than quantity.
It's true, you're forced to eat more than agrees with you, because you don't want to leave anything. 300 grams of meat is still the standard portion. In our opinion, 200 grams is absolutely sufficient. You hardly see the difference on the plate, but customers notice it in their stomach. There's a pleasant feeling of being full. There's no worrying about whether you'll manage it and feel a bit under the weather afterwards.
The restaurant reduced the prices for normal portions accordingly. Customers rapidly accepted the smaller portions. Yet the Weißer Bräuhaus still seems to be one of very few with this idea. Most proprietors worry that their clientele might not be satisfied. But that's easy to change.
Anfangs war ich skeptisch, weil doch ziemlich große Männer bei uns.
I was skeptical at the beginning because pretty big men, labourers and the like, are regulars here. But then we thought of offering an XXL portion for construction workers, for real he-men who want to eat a big portion. We said to ourselves, we'll charge a small surcharge for an XXL portion. Then everyone can decide what kind of portion they'd like. And it works. Nobody complains. Our guests have all accepted it.
Die Gäste von Anfang an angenommen, war kein Murren, nix. Das ging. Das sind ja in der Woche 2.
In a week, that's 2 suckling pigs less that we throw away. Just in terms of suckling pigs, we need 20 suckling pigs a week, and the way the portions used to be, of those 20, we would have thrown away 2. That can't be right.
Das kann's nicht sein.
Simply breaking off at the stem goes much faster than any knife.
Kürbis, genau. Wir haben ja dieses Jahr einen Hagelschlag.
We had a hailstorm this year. The pumpkins were all still relatively small, and they all had to suffer a great deal. Here you can see how the hole caused by the hail damage has been sealed. A misfit, so to speak. I really can't sell it as normal retail produce.
Harvesting cabbage as a happening. Not far from Berlin, a group of volunteers helps farmer Christian Heimann with the crop. Emerging here is the nucleus of a cooperative that wants to harvest the misfits too. Misshapen fruits of the soil that otherwise won't be accepted by retailers.
Misfit.
This one simply got too much water and burst open. It's completely fresh. These are too small. When they're so small at the end of October, you don't harvest them anymore. What the industry really wants is a red cabbage that weighs at least about 400 or 500 grams, right for a small family.
It annoys the farmer that he has to reject a third of his crop. He's looking for alternate sales routes so that he isn't forced to throw his vegetables onto the compost heap or sell them for a few cents as animal feed.
Crazy fit.
The sieving webs in the potato grader are basically standardized. They separate the sizes. These never make it to be sold. They're the small ones.
What are you going to do with this crate now?
Throw it away.
No, we'll take them, of course.
The farmer has found 2 customers who are looking for vegetables that don't conform to standards. The 2 designers want to open up a shop and use their project to change the aesthetic perception of how we consumers judge vegetables.
We want to offer these misfits every day, process them and bring them to town. Right now we're looking for a shop to do it. But in general, it's important to us to show what nature looks like. We think that nowadays a lot of people have forgotten this. By working with these misfits, we're trying to show what actually grows out there on a field. Hands or nose? Carrots in love, or here, an explosion of knobbly Bamberger potatoes. What's lying here is much more exciting, I mean. We all want to be individual all the time, but then we all end up chasing after the same ideal of beauty. At the moment, I'm preparing misfit skewers. Today, they're made out of three-legged carrots that are briefly blanched in hot water and salted a bit. Later, we offer them to people on the street on a stick. They're a lovely way of displaying the kind of diversity that we celebrate and want to show. And Lea has a really delicious beetroot brownie. It's made from beetroots that ended up too small. You don't have to be a trained cook to make them. We're not chefs either. Despite that, we've been able to delight all kinds of people until now with new creations that were really amazing.
Today, the two of them don't want to sell anything. They're collecting donations so that they can open up a vegetable snack bar in Berlin. Then they want to make the Culinary Misfits label available to supermarkets as well, and by doing so, stimulate the marketing of non-standard vegetables.
Would you like to try Culinary Misfits? Our crowdfunding campaign has started online. You can find everything on our website. Last week we had zucchini. They were just the right size to make fabulous things. For instance, sticks like these. Because much too much is thrown away. Nearly half the crop is disposed of.
A small shop won't be enough for the volume that farmer Christian Heimann rejects. Supermarkets would be a larger sales market, but most don't accept any deviations from the norm. Bio Company in Berlin is the first supermarket that also buys misfits from farmers. Georg Kaiser, the owner of 30 outlets, knows how skeptically customers react to odd-looking items. Yet even so, he ventures to offer crooked-shaped vegetables.
Wonderful looks fine. To me, it's a sign of ecological farming, of rural agriculture that can still do this. In the meantime, customers are already waiting for you to deliver early Friday morning. It's an item that's sold in a few days. Then they're gone. The main reason why we've convinced the customers is because you're in the neighborhood.
Georg Kaiser isn't waiting for politicians to do away with trading norms. Why aren't there shelves like these with naturally grown vegetables at other supermarket chains too? They're afraid their customers will disapprove of the misfits because for years they've been accustomed to perfectly grown vegetables. In recent years, another sales route has opened up for farmers. Direct marketing via vegetable subscriptions, or better yet, a co-op. The gardener is glad to see the young people who are freeing him from the trade stranglehold.
The wholesaler would have had problems with the size here, although they're often better.
And then?
We reject them.
Throw them away?
No, eat them ourselves.
We
don't think in terms of grade standards at all. Recently, we had some really small lettuces, so we put in 2 instead. It's not about whether it's a standard cucumber or properly shaped tomatoes. In the end, it's about eating your fill of delicious-tasting food. We say, people, with us it comes down to the taste. Looks are merely secondary. So with us, a caterpillar has to crawl out of the salad because it's proof that we are an organic nursery. The cucumber's allowed to be bent because then you know right away we didn't buy it at a wholesale market somewhere. It comes from our greenhouse. That's why it's no big deal when the kohlrabi has a little blemish either. It's not worth talking about. Hello, we've brought along some fantastic stuff. cress and the Asian salad greens.
The main reason is it makes you absolutely furious to see how the world treats our small farmers and nurseries. And this is the consequence when you don't want that anymore. Thanks to Kartoffelkombinat, I've learnt that crooked carrots taste just as good as straight ones. And when a potato grows eyes, you just have to dig in a little and cut them out. But 2/3 of the potato is fine and tastes great. Why does it have to be thrown away or made into animal feed or whatever?
The idea that the whole crop can be utilised has now reached a major supermarket chain in Denmark too. At the Rema 1000 distribution centre, hundreds of truckloads of vegetables arrive every day. In the past, farmer Morten Adamson had to pack 6 identically large heads of cabbage into each crate. The supermarket only accepted one standard size from him, because in Denmark, vegetables are usually sold by the piece.
They look really good. We do our best. I think it's good that we invoice according to weight now and not per piece anymore. This way we can harvest the smaller heads of cabbage as well that are just right for the many singles in Denmark, along with bigger ones for families. No one used to take small or large heads of cabbage from us. We couldn't sell 5 to 10% of the crop. We just left them on the field or threw them away.
What used to be the usual standard sizes made sure that customers also had to throw food away. For many, the heads of cabbage were simply too big. At the 235 outlets, the same rule used to apply that applied in every other supermarket in the country. Danes don't weigh. Everything was sold by the piece, so it didn't have to be weighed. Hardly anyone was aware that this meant that half the crop stayed on the field. In the meantime, most customers have accepted weighing.
I think it's a good idea. I don't waste food anymore because I only buy what I really need. And it's getting cheaper because there are fewer vegetables left lying at home that I can't finish eating. It means I had to buy a big sackful. Since I live alone, I can't eat it all. I end up throwing away quite a lot of food. I could live a whole week on onions, cook onion soup or eat onion quiche, but after a while that gets kind of monotonous.
Maybe I find it best when it's done fast. There's a moment of confusion when it has to be weighed first. I think it's a good idea to weigh things and only buy as much as you need. Then you don't throw as much food away as you would when bought by the piece. You'd immediately reach for the biggest one and still not use everything.
Even though vegetables are usually weighed in other countries, here farmers have to throw a great deal away too, because more and more vegetables are being packaged, with mostly only identical sizes in the packaging. The Danish supermarket manager has developed more ideas as to how he can help his customers to throw away less.
One of the main reasons behind waste are offers like buy 2, get 1 free. People are tempted to buy several packets of black bread or ham because they want a low price. But then they don't manage to eat it all and throw a lot out. We've decided to change that at our supermarkets and cut out the special offers. It doesn't matter if you buy 1 or more, it always costs the same.
Another alternative that kicks in much earlier was thought up by an ingenious entrepreneur from the Netherlands who produces carrot juice for German discounters.
Wat we hier doen is bijzonder omdat wij volledig op basis van reststromen...
The reason why what we do here is so special is that we produce our juice from carrots that used to be rejected and weren't used. Our approach is completely different from what traditional juice factories do. Van Rijsingen, our partner facility that supplies the supermarkets, has to reject about a quarter of the carrots. Up until now, those rejects have gone to farmers as feed. If they didn't use them, they even got sent to biogas plants. That's no appreciation of value. We divert these industrial side streams for both carrots and other vegetables back to their original purpose, human consumption.
Video scanners monitor the carrots. If they're too small or too crooked, short blasts of compressed air blow them onto other conveyor belts. The standard sizes go to the supermarkets, the others into the juice press. Basically simple. So why isn't it done like that everywhere? The reason? Until now, low food prices prevented companies from attending to leftover produce.
Very healthy, tasty, really cold carrot juice.
Technical investments towards reducing waste will certainly be worth it in the long run, because agricultural raw materials are becoming more expensive. Yet, still, it's often cheaper for the industry to simply throw food away than to invest in waste-saving machinery or labour. However, the Unilever food concern has decided to optimise the processes at its British factories so that less and less food waste occurs. 1.4 billion ice cream products flow from the conveyor belts every year at this factory in Gloucester, England.
There's 3 Magnum lines here, and over a period of time we've installed them one after another. If you take the 3rd line, it's actually now 25% more efficient in terms of waste generation. These tanks here are containing chocolates, and the real goodie, well, one of the real goodies parts of the Magnum, and we'll be really careful to make sure that we maintain the temperature correctly, that we don't degrade that chocolate, and the transportation pipes are actually very small, so we're minimising any possibility of waste during the whole transportation of the chocolate up until the point that the chocolate meets the Magnum.
Even so, there is still plenty of waste. Every unit that doesn't look perfect is removed by workers. The ice cream is even X-rayed to detect bits of metal that might have fallen in. On the other hand, the rejects are now delivered to a biogas plant, not dumped on landfills, as they were until recently.
We've actually reduced our waste footprint by 50% since our baseline year of 2008. And we've actually strengthened that target further to say that from our manufacturing operations, we aspire to get to 0 non-hazardous waste to landfill by the end of 2015. Now, we know we're going to achieve that. We don't know all of the answers at the moment. It's an incredibly challenging target across 70 countries, across more than 250 locations, but we're halfway there.
The long-term strategy ought to pay off for Unilever, not only due to the rising commodity prices. It's also a matter of image, because in England, the proper thing for companies to do these days is reduce their ecological footprint. Other British companies have also submitted ambitious waste concepts in the meantime. But how did that come about? Here too, the driving force was the British government. It summoned everyone to the negotiating table and achieved a target agreement. In the so-called courtauld commitment, food companies publicly committed themselves to reducing waste by 5% within 2 years. This target was actually achieved. Meanwhile, the next round is being negotiated in London.
Where we've been working with our courtauld commitment signatories, which are all the major retailers and the brands, is to how to make the supply chain even more efficient and actually reduce food waste in the process by trying to get them to work together to minimise the waste right the way through the supply chain.
For the Labour opposition, in power when the agreement was conceived, these successes aren't enough. Great Britain could have long since been further down the road had the target stipulations been coupled to sanctions.
The problem is with Courtauld is it doesn't really have teeth. You know, I would say that it was under-ambitious in terms of the target was only reducing food and packaging waste by 5%. And you compare that, I think, to some of the Scandinavian countries that have targets of 20%, 25%. And then also progress against that target in the first year was only 0.4% reduction. So although, you know, there was a reduction which is perhaps better than other places where food and packaging waste is growing, it's still quite a tiny, a tiny inroad into the problem. It's estimated that about between 1% and 3% of food waste that could be donated actually is donated. So that's an awful long way to go.
In the last few years, the issue of appreciating the value of food has caused many campaigns to be introduced all over Europe, like the Food Battle in the Netherlands.
Food Battle.
Food battle sounds a little crazy, as if to say we really throw food at each other, although in reality it's about the war against food waste. 3 communities that compete with each other to fight against food waste.
In a children's cooking course, Dutch TV chef Erik van Verhoeven shows the next generation how leftovers can be magically turned into delicacies and how to store food properly.
Just past the date, but still fine. But when you take these products out of the packaging, like the mushrooms, put them in a bowl and cover them with a damp kitchen towel. Then they stay fresh much longer. It's the same with soup greens. They don't dry out, they can breathe and stay fresh longer, even 4 days after the best before date. Through this food battle, we are trying to make people more aware. Those who commit themselves to keeping a waste diary receive a shopping bag filled with food items.
Over 100 consumers attend the event in the town of Apeldoorn. They want to test themselves by keeping a waste diary for 3 weeks. A shopping bag filled with delicacies is raffled off among the participants. But that's not the main motivation for Marlies van der Merwe.
I think it's nice to know myself how things look, but I think it's much more important to personally participate in something like this, to get together as a community and think, what are we all doing for this, and what do we do with our waste? How wasteful are we? I think that's great.
For Marlies van der Merwe, planning meals is not so easy. She lives together with her 3 grown-up children. They're at an age where you never know when they're coming home and how much they eat. Yet the mother still manages to keep the quantity of waste low.
Hier in huis is het eigenlijk
At our house, it might be a rotten little bit of an apple, but that's no reason to throw out the whole apple. Or this little piece of bread. I think it's absolutely edible, but none of us like the crust.
Niemand hier in huis lekker, dus dan, nou ja, doe dan maar.
It shocked me to hear the average that is thrown away per person in Holland. When I compare that with our 4-person household, I think that people with a family of 4 throw away an awful lot. I believe the test found that around 3 kilograms was thrown away per person per week. I throw away about 100 grams a week for the 4 of us. That made a total of 400 grams for the entire test, which seemed to be a rather bizarre difference to me.
Om daarvan te leren met z'n allen. Want dat klinkt dan wel een beetje beetje idealistisch.
Though it sounds very idealistic, we actually consume too much in comparison to what the world produces.
Dat we met z'n allen te veel verbruiken ten opzichte van wat de wereld opbrengt, zeg maar. Maar eigenlijk zouden we...
All you have to do is to watch out a bit, but it works if you want it to.
Helemaal niet eigenlijk.
Het is automatisch.
Als je kijkt van het gedrag wat zij laat
If you look at the
zien,
behavior she displayed towards reducing her food waste, you see it's optimal. She managed to cut it by half for all 3 weeks. That's a perfect result. She's what we call a cuddly consumer.
Knuffelconsument bij deze. Als we allemaal het gedrag van
If we all did it the way Marlies does, we'd cut back waste in the Netherlands by 90%.
Met 90% terug.
Every morning, Vesta Hein makes the rounds of Berlin's bakeries. For a nominal sum, she buys the bread from them that they were unable to sell the day before.
This is a fantastic job. I love my job. First of all, it smells good. That's great. You get into the car and there's the smell of bread. Back then, and even now, I didn't think, I'm trying out a sustainable idea. The yardstick was really set a lot lower. Using simple common sense, what I thought was, it's a real shame about all that bread. I see it partly in the way the saleswomen behave. Some pack things away very neatly, pack everything nice and pretty. And then I have some who, when the clock strikes 6:30 p.m. or whenever they close, they throw it all away, as if it were rubbish, as if it were food until 6:30 and turns into rubbish at 6:31, right? That's crazy.
Das ist so verrückt.
So if I decide that the bread is too good for the dumpster on the second day, I keep on selling it. The reason we're here is simply to give the bread another chance.
Her business idea with second-day bread has been copied again and again. Meanwhile, even Vesta Hein has opened a second branch, also in Berlin. She wonders about all the things that get rejected.
This is intentional, and that's not intentional. That's why the baker can't sell it anymore. But I can, and I do. Everything's not available all the time. The only things that are always there are what was left over somewhere else. There's something exciting about it too. What do we have today? You never know. You always have to let yourself be surprised.
Man muss sich immer überraschen lassen.
On the old bread market, Vesta Hein has specialised in the premium segment, in high-quality organic loaves and rolls that still taste good on the second day.
How old is yesterday's bread? It's a really philosophical question, isn't it?
Throw away less and save money. In France, even whole supermarket chains function according to this business idea. They target buying remnant warehouse stock from food factories, cheap at any price, or making clever use of gaps in the market.
We don't poison anyone. We make it easier for our customers to shop on favourable terms. We are cheaper than the other markets because we purchase foodstuffs from producers shortly before the expiry date. Sometimes produce is even past the date, but that doesn't matter. French law permits the sale after the best before date too.
The law doesn't just apply in France, it applies in the whole EU. The best before date is merely a claim to quality and has nothing to do with risks to health. Unfortunately, it's often misunderstood, which is why a lot of food is thrown away unnecessarily.
In my old job, I had to transport products like these to the incinerator plants. Hundreds of thousands of tons of food were destroyed each year. Just at the company I work for. If you extrapolate that for Europe, you come up with millions of tons. This incredible waste makes me angry. Here's a product, an instant soup, where the date has expired. It's powder, and in my opinion, it's going to stay powder for at least the next 20 years if it's stored properly. Another date that's basically useless. Canned lentils. When our grandparents preserved lentils, they were still good in the cellar for another 15 years. Why does the producer print only a 24-month shelf life here? Maybe to get us to consume more, throw away in order to buy more again?
Until now, secondary outlets like these only exist in France. Almost 200 supermarkets nationwide.
For us, this leftovers supermarket is very interesting. I have 5 children. A full shopping trolley like this costs 40 euros here. If I bought the same produce at a regular supermarket, I'd pay 120 euros. The expired best before date doesn't say anything. The food can still be eaten long after that. But the other retailers don't sell it anymore. I've been coming here since the grand opening a year ago, and I'm not dead yet.
The French secondary markets are still an exception in Europe. However, the apparent confusion triggered by the best before date has now caused many European governments to think about changing it.
The best before date is one reason for a lot of waste. 15 to 20% is thrown away because the consumer doesn't understand what it means. But this occurs mainly because the consumer is no longer able to judge if something is still good or not. You see, the whole chain is geared to the date. Naturally, it's very strange that a supermarket should decide solely according to the date whether a product stays on the shelf or not.
But the best before date, introduced in 1981, is being intensely discussed by the EU Commission because many consumers don't understand it correctly. That's why they throw good food into the bin unnecessarily.
It's obviously something which we have to change because it's leading to wrong decisions. And why it's so, I don't know, because I was not here when it was decided.
A different date is printed on rapidly perishable products like meat, the sell-by date. When it expires, the goods are no longer allowed to be sold due to the health risk. In Ukraine, a potential alternative to this date has now been introduced. Here at the Globino meat factory, an invention by a German label manufacturer is being used in continuous operation for the first time. It involves a temperature label that makes it possible to tell whether, for example, a package of mincemeat has been refrigerated without interruption since the production phase. In this high-tech machine, made in Germany, the label is started with an ultraviolet flash. However, expiry is coupled not to elapsed time, but to temperature.
This label contains a special printing ink that bleaches as time elapses. I'll do a fairly quick simulation by holding a lighter under it. As with any other source of heat, it accelerates the bleaching. The consumer sees that it's not a deep blue color anymore and shouldn't consume this product because it might be harmful to health.
The temperature label has already been tested in supermarkets in several European countries. But we were not allowed to film the new label in Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, France or Germany because it isn't clear yet if it's going to be launched universally. Even so, it's better than any chronological expiry date, which always remains merely an average value.
Wenn man 2 Bakterien irgendwo drin hat und die vermehren sich, sind es 4.
Bacteria multiply faster at higher temperatures. The cooler it is, the slower the growth. The higher it is, the faster. The task of this label is to accurately recreate the bacteria's growth.
Dieses Etikett muss dieses Wachstum der Bakterien exakt nachstellen.
The German retail chain Metro has introduced the temperature label to all of its markets in Ukraine to enable a better monitoring of the cold chain. The head of purchasing emphasizes, however, that for legal reasons, the label is not allowed to replace the sell-by date.
When the sell-by date has expired, we have to take the product off the shelf, even if the temperature label shows that the meat is actually still edible. The customer at home can judge by the label whether they still want to eat it or not. When the sell-by date has expired, it doesn't automatically mean the merchandise isn't good anymore. How often does perfectly edible food wander into the dumpster just because the date has expired? That's why the new label can reduce waste too.
Better quality control and less waste at the same time. All that for 2 cents more per package. Customers are delighted with the new label.
A good idea. The labels give us customers the option to see if the meat is fresh or not, and how long it's been stored. There have been several meat scandals here in Ukraine, with frequent complaints about the cold chain. That's why I think it's a good idea. The colour on the label shows if the meat is still good or not. Everybody knows that we throw away 25% of food. That's a catastrophe. Perhaps the label isn't the solution for everything, but it will help us to reduce losses, to throw less into the bin.
Sooner or later, the new label could even completely replace the shelf life dates used until now. The best before date is questionable anyway, because it's always arbitrarily shortened. Producers often have different dates printed on the same day of production, depending on where and when something is being sold, in order to suggest to customers that merchandise is fresh. Supermarkets remove food from the shelves shortly before expiration, even when it's flawless. A Dutch supermarket director wants to tread a new path.
Kijken naar vlees.
Basically, the quality of this joint of beef is still very good. But there's a brown spot on the surface due to a lack of oxygen. Typically, it will be taken off the shelf and thrown away. The consumer would rather have an unblemished piece of meat, although there's basically nothing wrong with this one.
Until now, he has had to dispose of several tons of good food each year. But now, the supermarket director wants to change that.
I can roast the meat and sell it as pot roast. I can process the leftover bread too. But if I do it on the premises, I have to hire a cook here. Our chain has 4,300 stores in the Netherlands, so I'd have to hire 4,300 cooks. I think it's simpler if we all look for a mutual solution. The remaining bread, meat and vegetables can be collected and processed centrally. We're talking about goods worth around 500 million euros a year in the Netherlands alone.
Marketing supermarket leftovers as ready-to-eat food. This business idea could turn into a business worth millions. The supermarket director is working together with one of the best-known upmarket caterers in the Netherlands, Bob Hutten in Eindhoven. His chefs are currently trying out which dishes they can conjure up out of daily deliveries of leftover goods.
The quality of these meals really is above restaurant level. I think there'd be a market for this in the Netherlands.
The offer varies because each day something different is left over. So the chefs have to be extremely flexible. But the ingredients are always fresh.
This is soup the way my mother used to make it. Just tomatoes, nothing else. You can't even buy something like this in a store anymore. Delicious. Soon dumpster diving won't be possible anymore because nothing will be thrown away.
There are plans to sell the ready-to-eat food in supermarkets, like here at the People supermarket in London. Admittedly, it's only a single store. In the Netherlands, it would be a major supermarket chain with 4,300 outlets. But it's the same principle. Remove and process in time before it goes bad. At the People supermarket, it's a question of philosophy. Nothing gets tossed in the bin that's still edible. For the cook, a real challenge.
When you come in the morning, often you don't know what you've got to cook with because it's what's been taken from the shop floor the previous evening. The people who shop here are very supportive of the idea of saving waste, so we've struggled to keep up with demand. So we could produce a lot more food and it would sell, I think.
The shocking realization that we throw away half of our food has caused many people to look for alternatives. That's good. But individual initiatives are not enough. To change the system behind waste, governments must define new rules so that throwing out no longer pays. The EU is taking the lead and has declared 2014 to be the European Year Against Food Waste.
Will we produce enough food till 2050 when the population would be 9 billion? Sorry, we are today producing enough food for this 9 billion, but they are not coming to the mouth which are hungry. It is wasted, it goes to the dustbins. So this is really a story which is a moral story also, not only economic and environmental story. And we are absolutely bound to deal with that type of questions because this is simply wrong.